Hello, welcome to Dynamic Music Connection webinar. We are so excited to have everybody. My name is Cassidy Shepard. As we are waiting for some people to jump on, I'm just going to kind of review what we're going to be talking about. This is Dynamic Music Connection. You have most likely, whoever is joining, all of our attendees, have most likely received a call from someone from the Star Center recently and wanted to hear more about virtual music therapy. And so we are so excited to share more with you. Today we're going to have Dave Bratcher and Caitlin Ross with us today. They are both from the Star Center. So we're going to get started with Dynamic Music Connection. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. We can get started with the presentation. All right, like I said, Dynamic Music Connection, or as you probably thought it was, this is kind of like virtual music therapy. What we're going to be talking about, it's 3 secrets to transforming your impact through the power of music. All right. So does this sound like you? You're an experienced director. Your current approach has you constantly drained, wearing too many hats, and you're a firefighter every single day. Or maybe you're someone who has a lot of experience, but you're not making the impact you know you can because of just other stuff. Maybe you're a brand new director who would love to have a proven roadmap, research-driven activities, and the support from the community. Or perhaps maybe you're new to the role. You want to do this job the right way without the struggle. Maybe you want to build a process to follow that gets residents engaged, interacting, and thriving. Maybe you're just overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to keep up morale with no visitors, no entertainers, no volunteers, no family members, and no friends, especially right now. Not a lot you can do. So, all right, if this is you, then trust me, you are in the right spot. Don't forget, if you need to ask questions throughout the entire time, please send them through the question and answer. This is Dave Bratcher. In case you don't already know him, Dave is the president of the Star Center. He's going to be our first speaker today. The Star Center is the region's most diverse disability provider, serving populations from neonatal intensive care units to nursing homes. Under Dave's leadership, the Star Center has grown from serving 2,800 clients in 2015 to over 4,300 in 2019. The music therapy department is one of the most sought out after internship sites for the students, because of the breadth and the depth of the population served. Dave is a certified speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. Through this, he has worked with hundreds of leaders to refine their processes, improve their culture, and drive tremendous value to their customers. Dave has been married to his wife, Julie, for 15 years, and they have 2 young kids, their daughter, Gracie, and their son, Bennett. Aren't they so cute? I love them. They're precious family. So you have to set aside the time. You've already set aside the time to attend this presentation. So I want to encourage you to maximize this time by turning off the ringer in your phone, shutting down your email, close that door, and everything that could be a distraction. Focus on today's presentation. It will be so well worth your time, I promise. Finally, before I bring on Dave, as I've said before, if you have questions during this presentation, please enter them in the comment box you see below or in the Q&A spot. Towards the end, we will have a Q&A session where I will be asking Dave and Caitlin Ross, one of our music therapists, your questions. So be sure to ask them as you think of them. Without further ado, let me bring on our webinar instructor, Dave Bratcher. 1 second. Let me stop this share here and bring him on. All right.
Great. Thank you so much, Cassidy. And, you know, this truly has been a situation in which we had to pivot. We are, just like you, being affected by COVID-19. And our team huddled together and said, gosh, is there an opportunity for us to continue providing services inside assisted living centers and nursing homes, just as we were doing 4 weeks ago? And so the answer was yes. So then we started calling centers all across the state of Tennessee to gauge their interest. The response was overwhelming. And so we created this this program, Dynamic Music Connection, as a response to the needs that we heard from all of you. And so we're definitely excited about what the future has to offer, and we are excited about what is to come. And so we're going to jump back into the presentation, and we're going to start with our goal. And our goal for today's presentation is going to be a situation where we're going to ask the question, does this sound like you? And when we look at the goals and we look at what the purpose of everything that we're going to do today is, we know that this is a different time. And we also know that the experiences through the power of music is an amazing thing. And so the good news is you don't even have to be able to sing or play the guitar. And the question, though, is what makes this different? Well, the thing that makes this different is you know the demands you have on your time. And there hasn't been a way to get more than 24 hours into any day. And so what differentiates good from great is how that 24 hours is used. And so through this connection, you're going to get time back, you're going to grow in confidence, and you're going to watch your residents thrive. You know, when we started music therapy at the Star Center over 20 years ago, we had no idea that it would take off the way that it did. But because of that, we've had an opportunity to learn a lot. You know, we've interacted with tens of thousands of clients over the years. Sometimes we were doing things right. Other times, maybe we were getting things wrong. But after watching this therapy grow over the last 20 years, we discovered three things. First, we discovered there's much more inclusive path to creating a music-first culture. Number two, we discovered that it doesn't have to be stressful or all-consuming to get that done. And number three, I discovered that with the right strategy, it can be very impactful to residents and to staff alike. The other option is to do it the hard way. And when we do it the hard way, that means we're going to do it solo. And so what happens is we self-create a bunch of music and activities. The other thing that we do is we announce it and hope that people participate. And finally, we've got to dream up something new each and every week, which creates a ton of stress on not just you, but all those people around you. And so this is just a reminder that if you got questions, make sure you put them in the chat box, and we will make sure that those get answered at the end of today. The other thing is I discovered that there are two types of music programs. And one of the most interesting things that we've learned is there's one that we really want to do, and then there's the other one that we want to try to avoid. And so I want to talk about those two different programs just for a second. The first one is what I call the hobbyist. And so, you know, you've seen people who are interested in something, and then you've seen people who are committed. And so, you know, candidly, I can play a few chords on the guitar, but music is not the thing that I'm most interested in. And so because of that, if you ask me to do some kind of music activity, I'm probably going to put off planning it until the last minute. I'm probably at 9:25 before the 9:30 music class, be looking on YouTube and trying to figure something out. And again, that's not terrible. It's just not my thing. And so because of that, my time and preparation for music is not going to be where it should be. The other option is to think about it like a business owner. And so what would a business owner do? If we're talking about music from the standpoint of business, well, we're going to know what we're going to be doing, not just today, but we're going to be knowing we'll know already what we're doing next week and the week after, and likely for the entire year. There's going to be a path to follow, a roadmap. We're going to have reasons why we're doing things. We're not just going to be doing busy work. We're going to be doing things that are pointing us towards our ultimate goal. And that is the critical piece that we're going to talk about today. I want to share throughout the presentation some words from those that we've served. So there was a resident in a local memory care unit. They had difficulty remaining reality oriented and holding one-on-one conversations. And so enter the music therapist who brought familiar hymns along with questions to prompt reminiscing. Next thing you know, after they got done singing How Great Thou Art, that carried this resident back to family memories, going to church, and then gathering around the radio together at night. What an impact. Have you ever wanted to create a music program? Well, probably. And if I gave you a choice, would you want to do it the easy way or the hard way? I'm certain that you would choose the easy way. So we're going to look at 3 secrets that are going to make this music program effective. The first one is music is a universal language. The second secret is the less you do, the more impact you will have. And the third secret, you don't have to create it. You just have to use what's created. And so let's unpack some of those. First of all, secret number 1, music is a universal language. This is one of a trend that you see as it relates to music. It's everywhere. And if you look closely, what you're gonna see is that we live in a music immersed culture. You cannot study culture without studying music. And that music is our identity, both individually as we think back on individual moments in our life. They're often time-stamped with a song. Or we think about times when we were in group settings. Again, whether that's a wedding, whether that's a graduation, whether that's a concert that we'd always wanted to go to and we finally made it. We timestamp things with music. So there's a couple trends that are happening around music. And the first one is music is more available today than ever before. But we timestamp activities, like I said earlier, and phases in our life around music. This is for young people, old people, males, females, rich, poor, those with disabilities, and those without disabilities. And just a couple of screens here to just show you, right? Streaming music, whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Spotify, Pandora, there's all these different places that we can get access to music right at our fingertips. And it just continues to grow, and records are broken on all of the songs that are being streamed. Accessibility continues to grow every day. The second trend I want to talk about is the trend of virtual. Virtual is real. And whether we want to admit it or not doesn't change the fact that it's real. And so I wanted to share a few photos just to take us down memory lane here. The first one is the way we used to listen to music, and it's an 8-track. The second one are VHS cassettes, where we used to watch videos, watch movies on VHS. And then finally, there's the Motorola bag phone that you can see there. These, they had great reception. You never had to worry about dropping a call, but not convenient. Look, I don't think any of these are coming back. You may disagree, and that's okay, but I'm not seeing any traction for any of these coming back. What I am seeing traction for are headlines, where you see that, did you ever think the University of Tennessee would ever move to online-only classes? Well, it just happened. COVID-19 is the reason, but I bet many professors couldn't believe it either. But then when I saw Harvard was doing the same thing, I thought our old understanding of normal has forever been changed. Again, if you got questions, make sure that those get thrown into the Q&A box so that at the end we can make sure that we answer those questions. All right, secret number 2. The less you do, the more impact you'll make. Now, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. This does not indicate there's nothing to do, though. Rather, there are ways to align what you're doing so that you can do less and actually increase the impact that you can make. You know, I love this photo here because I think it tells so many stories. So the person on the right is who you want to be, while the person on the left is often how you feel. And so those residents are often feeling the exact same way. You know, research has proven that music positively impacts mood. It decreases agitation and aggressive behaviors for older adults who are living in long-term care facilities. So wouldn't it be great to have a positive impact on your residents, at the same time, have it on you? Now, let's talk about the field for a second. You know, the long-term care facility field is not easy. Those that make it, number one, are called. But number two, they have to deal with a one-word challenge. And that one word is overwhelm. Some one reason people leave is because they just run out of hats, right? They're wearing all these hats and they just finally run out and they say, I've got to go find something else. And so this idea of the less you do, the more impact you will make, will decrease this overwhelm. Here's another great little success story from activity director, which basically says they enjoy so much to sing, and they would even keep singing after the session was over. And so this is such a beneficial therapy that you offer our residents, and they love it. Well, we love our activities directors, and we love getting this type of feedback from them. Secret number 3, you don't have to create it, you just have to use it. That sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Well, let's just look at an example. So what you see on the screen is an example of something that you did not create. And that's the brain. At least I don't think you did. You know, this creation of the brain was done by God, but it's incumbent upon us to use our brain. And so the best way to maximize brain use is through, guess what? Music. Additionally, since we're talking about the brain, music therapy techniques positively impact the brain. And this is seen specifically through targeting memory, mood, and motivation, as well as motor skills. All right, so let's just real quick review the 3 secrets. So music is a universal language. Number 2, the less you do, the more impact you will have. And number 3, you don't have to create it. You just have to use it. Now, let's talk about some needs. Is it possible to meet the needs of you and your residents? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about the needs that you have. We already talked about overwhelm. So if we could find a way to decrease burnout, if we could get back some time, that would be great. If the plan could be developed by others, wow. What about research done on the method that's being prescribed? It's predictable. A plan is consistent. And oh, by the way, there is a plan to follow. Those would be needs that would be met. And we're going to turn some frowny faces into some smiley faces, which you can see there. Next, what about our residents? Wouldn't it be great if our residents, we could meet the need of a common language, have their mood improve, decrease agitation, aggressive behaviors, work on motor skills and improve those, and then finally improve memory and improve motivation? I think that would definitely put a smile on everyone's face. You may be asking yourself the question, can I do this? Well, instead of me answering it, let's look at another activity director. I love music therapy. It gets my residents moving and happy. Music therapy is a way for them to relive memories and good times. Well, actually, I couldn't agree more. Again, as we go through, just a reminder, any questions you have, make sure you throw those there in the chat box, and we will answer those at the end. So let's review the 3 secrets. So music is a universal language. We're seeing that, and trends are supporting that. Accessibility is there. and virtual is real and is here to stay. Number two is the less you do, the more impact you will make. And remember, we looked at the number one reason that directors are leaving the field is overwhelm. That's the resounding word that we hear. And finally, we talked about inside this overwhelm, if there could be a consistent path to follow. So that's why that a success roadmap is going to be provided. And this is a framework created by us to launch not just the program and plan each week, but also test against goals that you have for each of your residents. And number three is you don't have to create it. You just have to use it. And what does that look like? Well, done for you music programs, backed by research and over 20 years of experience, delivered by a board certified music therapist. And oh, by the way, there's 24/7 access to those programs. Another thing that we know is super important is building out community. And so this is going to be a community built just for you to interact with us, but more importantly, interact with each other, because community matters, and we need a safe place for us to work through challenges and talk about success stories we're seeing each day. But all good things often come with a warning. I may not need to tell you this, but old habits are going to keep you from your potential. That's just the way it is. And we need not just us, but we need you to commit to the new way. But the question is, are you going to commit to the new way? There's a reason why you were attracted to this webinar, why you made the decision to show up here today. And it's a clue, and I don't believe it's an accident. And here's what I know to be true. The future is so bright for people just like you, big-hearted directors who really want to make a difference in the lives of those in your facility. And so now is one of those moments. You've got to decide, what kind of future are you going to commit to? You know, I mentioned VHS videos earlier, and I think it's important for us to understand it wasn't too many years ago that you and I and the rest of the country were finding our local Blockbuster, going in typically on a Friday and scanning the shelves to see what movies were out. You know, this was an old, outdated business model, but it's an example for us. And it's a wake-up call for many of us, because we can be stuck with an old, outdated business model that relies on you to do all the work. And it focuses on how to do it, and it focuses on what you're doing. And it's one that hopes you can continue to do it all by yourself, like you've always done. You know, the other business model guarantees that your mental well-being is going to be strong. You've returned some of your many hats and your residents are thriving. And I want to park here just for a second, because during this quarantine COVID-19 situation, what were we seeing all over Facebook? Do you have any Netflix recommendations? What's the new show? What do I need to watch? Nobody was asking or griping about the late fee that they got charged by Blockbuster, because Blockbuster isn't here anymore. Netflix is the thing of the future, and we want to take that as our model versus Blockbuster. All right, let's check in with another one of our success stories. So this was a situation where we discovered that a resident used to play drums, and this resident loved to dance. And so once our music therapists learned this, they were able to engage the resident, follow that with some instrument play, and this gave the opportunity for the resident to play the paddle drum. And so guess what? Roaming decreased and engagement increased. What a success. All right, right now you've got three choices. And those three choices we're going to look at. The first one is really not a choice at all. It's to choose to do nothing. That could be the choice. The second choice that you have is to go it alone. And maybe that's been the choice that you've made over these last few, whether it's months or years. And so that's still an option. And then finally, you can let us support you. And obviously that's what this whole program is designed around, providing the support to you for you to have a greater impact on the lives of the residents that you serve. You know, I talked about this earlier, is time. We've all got 24 hours. I've tried to create some more and I've failed every single time. But if you wanted to go it alone, do you have the time to figure it all out? And then what kind of impact would that have on lost time and frustration and stress in your life already? So I understand how challenging it can be. I saw firsthand how challenging the life of a director can be for those who don't love music, aren't super excited about building out a music platform. But they were trying to figure it out all alone and they got stuck. But could you just go to YouTube and play some music? Of course you could. But would that give you what you really wanted? I love some of these pull quotes from residents. The first one is, music is calming to me. Man, calm residents. Love that idea. The second one is, music helps me concentrate when I'm doing an activity. The next one, music makes me feel happy. And then we've got a couple specific to one of our music therapists who you're going to hear from at the end. I like when Caitlin comes, I get to play different instruments. And then finally, Caitlin makes it really fun and helps me relax. Again, got questions? Make sure you drop those in the Q&A box. What I saw on the other side was that business owners were doing things slightly different and getting massive results as compared to the hobbyist. The folks who took the time to think out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, but they started with a different question, and that was, why are we going to do it? They followed a set of best practices, strategies that, although seem counterintuitive, they work time and time again. You may be wondering, well, gosh, why have I not been doing this already? Look, it's not your fault that you didn't know these strategies. The overwhelming majority don't. How would they? The only reason I discovered them was because we've been doing this work for over 20 years. I had the privilege of seeing what works, and that's exactly why we created the Dynamic Music Connection. We wanted others, regardless of where their physical facility was located, to benefit from all that we've learned. So here are the things that are specifically included. Number one, weekly sessions. So what does that entail? Well, the first thing is weekly sessions are going to have on-demand video, and they're going to focus on cognitive and physical goals. So the second thing is each lesson is supported by research. Third, the lesson plan is done for you. And fourth, the strategies to implement this are going to carry over into other areas of the day and the week. And so these weekly on-demand videos are going to serve as the foundation. They will be many different things. There will be many different things that are going to be built off of these weekly videos, but they're always going to be the starting point. So for example, a theme around New Year's or a theme around Mother's Day, these will tie into these seasonal themes that are happening, honestly, just about every single month. And so next we're going to talk about the second thing, which are connection calls. Now, these connection calls, they have a few purposes in them. The first one is, it's a check-in for us. We get an update from you on how last week was. The second thing is we get to talk through what next week's content is going to be. And sharing ideas about how we can take that content and you could then build other things around it that would tie everything together. The third thing is just a regular open Q&A. Here's what worked, here's what didn't work, here were some challenges we had. And then number four is an idea share. This could have to do with music. It might have to do with something other than music. And either way, that's one of the things that would be done during those weekly connection calls. The next thing is the full access tech library. So what does that include? Well, each weekly lesson will be available to be used again. And so maybe you had a group that really loved whatever the exercise was. So you would have the ability to pull that lesson out and let those residents work on that same lesson again. The next thing has to do with worksheets and different manipulatives that would be needed for the support of the weekly video lesson. Those are provided, and those are continue to be there in that library. If you need IT or computer support, we have IT folks that are on our team that can access, you can access them and they can help. And then intake forms for new residents. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. But the question is, who is this work for? Well, the first person that it's worked for is an experienced director. You know, somebody that's been in this field for a long time. They are able to basically reduce some of the things that they've been doing themselves for a long time and plug this in with the confidence in knowing that it's going to have a positive impact on the residents. So maybe it's somebody that's been in the field for a long time, but they just haven't been in the director's seat. So maybe they even started as a CNA and they worked their way up and now they're on the administrative side, but they've never been in that seat. So what a better way to transition them than with a roadmap that can tie these pieces together. And finally, the folks that are brand new. I mean, I can't think of a better way to set somebody up that's brand new than with a framework in which everything can be built around, because this is a super important piece. All right. So who is this not for? You know, our clients have ranged from decades in the field to brand new, but let's talk about who it's not for. The first person it's not for is the tire kicker. It's not for anyone who just wants to kind of check things out. You can't kind of create a thriving community regardless of what the program is. And success doesn't just kind of happen. You've got to be intentional right from the get-go. The second person is somebody that's looking for a success magician. You sign up and you immediately think everything's going to be transformed. This is a framework. As I've said before, it takes commitment to learn, and it actually requires action. You have to implement it. And third, what I'll be sharing with you works with lots of real world stories. So if you're someone who likes to focus on why something wouldn't work, then this is not for you either. I've said before, many of the strategies are counterintuitive to what most people teach, and that's partly why they work so well. You've got to be open to what I'm sharing. Otherwise, it's going to be a frustrating experience for both of them. So who is this for? If you're somebody who has a genuine desire for creating a culture with a foundation on music, this is for you. Or you have a genuine desire to serve your community in a bigger, more fulfilling way. If that's you, then I look forward to working with you to show you exactly how. All right, we're going to check in with another resident here. So this resident had a challenge of experiencing a repetitive behavior. And so the music therapist began a memory recollection, fill in the blank song activity. So what started happening by the time we got through recalling all the words to Love Me Tender by the King, Elvis Presley, look what happened. Decrease in that particular repetitive behavior, and they stayed engaged for the remainder of the session. The power of music therapy is real. All right, let's look at if these were, so these weekly in-person, these typically the way we've historically done music therapy, and it's in essence about $100 a week. And so that's where the $5,200 for the year comes from. But these lessons are going to be delivered to your inbox each Monday. There will be a password protected YouTube video. Supporting worksheets or documents are needed. They will be attached to the email. So the only technology requirements would be internet access. If this is going to be done in a group, there would need to be the ability to project to a TV or some type of screen. But let's talk about individually. So if let's say you've got a resident who maybe their mobility isn't good, maybe they would rather participate in their room. If they have a device that can connect to the internet, then this could be done one-on-two or one-on-one even, and they could interact with this material as well. The second thing, the weekly coaching calls. And so this is where we're going to get together and connect during these weekly connection calls, and we discussed what those are the purpose of those already. Here's the full access tech library, and also access to our IT support when things are not working like they are supposed to. So here's what you're going to get. The weekly video content, these are the sessions, the weekly connection calls, the full access tech library. And so now we're up over to $7,400 if we were building this out the way we historically have. So here's bonus number one. Who doesn't like a good bonus? So we're big believers in action and engagement. And so this connection assessment tool will be made available to you immediately after you join. And the purpose of this tool is for each resident to answer 5 questions. Each of these questions are going to revolve around music, and it will be the first step in facilitating ongoing conversations around music. So once these assessment tools have been created, then they can be put into a professionally designed display card for each door, communicating to everyone what those answers were. The next bonus number 2, is all of the materials. First, it's connection theme, but all these materials that we're going to be using will have a theme to them. And this is going to make it easier for you to communicate internally what you're doing in the area of music and tie everything back together. It's also going to be for great examples of what the residents are doing, which they can share with their family and friends, whether that's through FaceTime, whether that's through Zoom, or whether that's when family and friends can actually come and visit. Bonus number 3, a ticket to Connection Live. We know the power of relationships and the importance of growing in knowledge. And so we'll be hosting an annual conference designed specifically for you. Yes, it will involve music, but will not be limited to only music. This will be another way that we can serve through adding value. All right, so recap. Those are the things that we talked about at the top. So now the total value of this is just over $9,200. And so if all this did was give you 1 extra hour per week to breathe, would it be worth it? If all this did was increase your residents' satisfaction, wellness, and quality of life, would it be worth it? If all this did was give you time to get to know your residents a little better, would it be worth it? If all this did was give you peace of mind in knowing your residents are receiving research-backed techniques each week to meet their goals, would that be worth it? And the next question is, what are those feelings worth to you? I'm sure you can see that this would be a great deal at $5,000, but it's not $5,000. You can get started now for just, well, it's actually going to be better than this. So it's supposed to be $127, but for our special founders, we have decreased that to $97 per month. And that is limited to our initial group. Our regular price is $127. So when this comes back, when we launch this again, the $97 will not be there. The $127 will be, and it's going to go up from there. But here's the good news. For those of you that take action now, you're going to be locked in at $97 per month forever. And so the founders offer is only good through Tuesday, which is just a few days from now, at noon Central Time. And so those of you that want to take action, and those of you who want to participate and get involved, go to dynamicmusicconnection.com and reserve your spot as a founder. You know, there's only one batch of founders, and that would be a pretty neat thing to include yourself in that list, lock in the $97 a month, and immediately begin to start adding value to residents, especially during this time that we're in now. So again, just a recap of everything that we've talked about today. One other thing that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of is we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So let's say that you start through this process and you go, you know what, this is not what I thought it was. Our goal is to add value. And if you're not getting the value, then we want to give your money back. We obviously don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, then there's no questions asked. 30 days, you can get refunded that money. So again, where do you sign up? dynamicmusicconnection.com. Started today for $97. And again, that would be $97 per month. And we've got the founders only offer is only good through Tuesday. And so that's about 4 or 5 days from now, to go to dynamicmusicconnection.com and get everything lined up and ready to go. All right, there we go. Well, Cassidy and I have been doing all the talking so far. And, you know, we're not the ones who actually know how to do any of the things that we've been talking about. And so as we transition into our time of Q&A, I'm honored to introduce you to one of our board-certified music therapists. Her name's Caitlin Ross. She's dedicated her life to serving people through music, allowing them to achieve non-musical goals. She's given thousands of hours to bettering the lives of residents just like yours, and we're glad that she is a part of Team Star. And there she is.
Hi.
So welcome, Caitlin. Cassidy, I'm pretty sure there's some questions, and so we're just going to let you kind of ask questions now. Make sure that Caitlin gets all the questions that are, make sure Caitlin gets all the questions, I guess.
Pretty much. I know we don't want to have to answer me. First of all, thank you guys for joining us. We're so excited. Please don't forget to send us your questions through the chat box or through the Q&A box. So a couple of questions that we did have already. And I know we may have mentioned it. This is actually probably more for me and you, Dave. Is there someone I can contact if I have issues getting signed up? So if you go to dynamicmusicconnection.com, hopefully the process is pretty streamlined. But if not, you can reach out to Dynamic, DYNAMIC, at star-center.org for help signing up. I know sometimes Wi-Fi and things can get tricky, but we'll make sure we take care of that. All right, one question that we did have is, this sounds great. I love the idea, but what if I don't have any instruments? Caitlin?
Right. Yeah. So upon signing up, you will be added to the private Facebook group that Dave was talking about. And in that Facebook group, we will have a list posted for you to go straight to links that will provide you with instruments. However, that is not recommended. You can still do this program without instruments. However, it's optional, and we will make it super easy for you, where all you have to do is click and then add it to a cart. And the total is $150 for the instruments for a group of 15. And the idea of that too is that it will last a long time. You can use them in other activities. These are not just limited just to our groups. However, I just want to iterate again, it is not required. You can still do our groups without the instruments. However, we just wanted to provide that for y'all.
Awesome. So not required, but if you do want instruments, we can send that to you. If you have more questions about it, email that email address, dynamic@star-center.org. Okay, another question that we have, can we get a sample of an activity or session? What is something that you would do?
Absolutely. So let's just take spring as our theme for an example, since we are in the spring season, even though sometimes the weather doesn't feel like it. So what I would do is, we're going to start off these activities with an opening song, something to kind of welcome the members into the group or into the activity. Then we'll do a small portion of movement, and those will just be to instrumentals or songs about spring. That something I like to use is Spring Fever by Elvis when I do movement in spring. And so we'll do guided movement through that, and then we usually move into some kind of song play activity. So I would sing songs about spring and try to engage the residents into singing along with me these familiar songs that talk about spring. And then we would probably do one more activity that's a cognitive based activities such as fill in the blank or songwriting or some form of that. And then I would close the group with a closing song, usually Happy Trails, because that's always a classic. So that would be a typical activity that you would receive. Obviously, that was described very short, but it would be about 45 minutes to an hour.
Nice. Good song choices. Okay, so another question. Do I, as an activity director, need to be present during sessions?
So I know some facilities require that the activities director be present when activities are happening. However, you would receive a session outline for the activity that is supposed to be used that week, and it would give disclaimers to you on like what your role might be. But for all of the activities, you might not have a role. And if you just overview that session plan quickly, you can see whether or not your presence to be fully present is needed that day or not needed. And so for all of the session, is not required for the activities director to be there to facilitate anything. However, like I said, I know some facilities require the activities director to be present for activities, so that would be totally based on your facility's requirements.
Gotcha. It kind of answered, I think, this next question we have. How much prep is needed?
Right. So really all we ask of you is to click the link that'll send you to the video, and then read through the session plan outline. That'll just kind of give you an idea of what to expect in the activity. However, even if you did it last minute and you're reading the outline during the session, that's totally fine too. So not a lot of prep. I would say maybe 4 minutes tops to be able to read through the outline and know what you're about to get yourself into. And so very, very small minimum prep time for these activities.
Awesome. Okay, so we got 2 more questions. How will the videos be accessible? I guess Dave and I can answer that one. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, but I think, we're on a journey here. And so step 1 is they're going to be accessible through a YouTube link that's going to be password protected. And so that is step 1. Step 2 is going to involve some other things, but none of this is going to require any kind of technology more than an internet connection. Okay. So it's not going to get more complicated, but as we grow this, we may want to move it off of YouTube and into something that has a little more flexibility and control for not just us, but for also you, and being able to find things and search things and all of that. And so, but in the beginning, especially for our founders, this is going to be a password protected YouTube link.
Great. I think our last question, unless any more come in, is what if we already have a music therapist?
Yeah, I think that's, Caitlin, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, that is great. That's awesome for your facility. It's you're very fortunate to have one. It's very rare. Unfortunately, there's not enough of us practicing in nursing homes providing the service for those individuals. However, this could be an added incentive for your music therapist to help with their caseload on planning and coming up with ideas and all of these things. So I think that this could still work for your facility if your music therapist is on board. So
yeah, and I just want to be clear, this was never designed to be a replacement to a music therapist. What we saw, especially in this moment, as we're learning how to be different and grow into the need, what we saw is that while we're in a metropolitan area, I don't want to say it's a big city because it's not, but it's not 100% rural. Let me put it that way. But a lot of the facilities across the United States are in rural areas, and the more rural it is, the harder it's going to be for a music therapist to be providing music therapy. And so we wanted to lower the barrier of access to music therapy techniques so that we could increase the benefit of music therapy in places where maybe a therapist would never be able to go.
Awesome. Dave, you want to review the pricing one more time before we get off? Because that is all the questions that I have.
Yeah, I think that's good. So super simple. Again, founders launch, founders only. It's going to be $97 per month. And just to put that in perspective, when we send a music therapist in, it's at least $100 for an hour session. Okay, so to put that in perspective, and that's a week. So every time they go, it's $100 at least, plus mileage, plus other things. So here's what you're going to get for the $97 a month. You're going to get the weekly session, video session. You're going to get any kind of manipulatives or worksheets that are going to be needed for that. You're going to get the weekly connection calls in which we get to debrief and look back and then also look forward to what's coming. You get access to the private Facebook community, which we're going to be sharing best practices, not just with music, but when we find something that we think is of value to our activities directors that doesn't have anything to do with music, we're going to put that in the Facebook group. And so it's just going to be a place where we can get to know each other and help each other, however the help is needed. The other thing that you're going to get is the tech library and access to that. In other words, it's not like you get 1 week and it goes away. No, you have access to all the weeks that preceded it. And so that's a great thing. There's also the bonus of the connection theme, the connection tool, and then finally the ticket to Connection Live, which is going to be our live event that will happen likely next summer as we bring together activities directors from across the United States to learn from each other and learn different things, not just about music, but about all things activities directors. And so we're super excited. We know that this founders launch, and we did this on purpose, is going to have a very small number of people in it. We want to make sure that we can pour every bit of resources we have into this. We can learn all that we need to learn before we go and share this with more people. So you are going to help us make this better for activities directors that you may have never met, but you play a critical role. $97 a month, dynamicmusicconnection.com. Get your spot saved today. We look forward to seeing you on the other side.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Dynamic Music Connection webinar. We hope that you learned the 3 secrets to transform your facility through the power of music. Again, thank you, Caitlin, our music therapist, and Dave Bratcher, the president of the Star Center. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day.